Welcome back. You're watching Newsx. My name is Vineet. Well, Indians are reacting sharply to the racist cartoon published by a Norwegian newspaper that depicted Prime Minister Modi as a snake charmer. A portrayal many Indians have slammed as racist, colonial and deeply offensive. The cartoon, linked to India's growing global diplomatic footprint, has triggered outrage across social media, with critics saying it revives outdated Western stereotypes of India as a land of snake charmers and mysticism. Several citizens have accused the publication of mocking not just the Prime Minister, but India's identity and rise on the world stage. Many users online have questioned why such caricatures are still acceptable when global conversations are focused on diversity and cultural sensitivity. The controversy has now snowballed into a larger debate on Western media bias, racism, and how emerging powers like India are portrayed internationally. Let's in fact take a look at the reactions coming in on social media. Right, let's in fact show you some of these offensive messages that have been put out against the Prime Minister, plus also what has been the reaction to those. All right, we'll continue to talk about this with our guest as well, but try and understand that this was an official visit that the Prime Minister had made to Norway, and this is the kind of media reception the Indian Prime Minister has been subjected to. Let's take a look at the first one and what it says and what it means. All right, well, the Indomitable goes on to say that countries like Norway, one has the right in the name of press freedom to spout any nonsense or make racist remarks. Depicting India's Prime Minister as a snake charmer, this cartoon proves just how well those absurd individuals are unable to stomach India's progress and growing power. Asia Warzone says that Norway's Aftenposten publishes racist cartoon of Prime Minister Modi as a snake charmer, a disgraceful display of colonial arrogance. Dr. Balin goes on to say Norway's largest newspaper just posted a cartoon of PM Modi as a snake charmer during his Oslo visit. Headline: a clever and slightly annoying man. Wow. This is the same country that ranks #1 in press freedom while lecturing others. Both sides. E goes on to say that Norway isn't giving us fuel for free. India pays market rates. These deals benefit both sides. They also go on to say that same mindset behind biased indexes, press freedom, happiness, where Pakistan ranks above India, created by those uncomfortable with the rising confident India. Where 1.4 billion people, our nation has never invaded another country or killed innocent people. Vinay Jala goes on to say, as a cartoonist, I believe satire should challenge power intelligently, not recycle colonial stereotypes. Portraying India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi as a snake charmer in 2026 isn't sharp commentary, it's outdated and intellectually weak. Shocking, racist, derogatory. Also, this is in journalism, it's colonial era racism. All right, let's talk about this with our guest as well. On the program to delve into this is Mr. Surinder Singh Lali, International Affairs expert. Shruti Das Gupta, Foreign Affairs expert, is also with us. Mr. Gautam Mukherjee, senior journalist and ambassador. Pradeep Kapoor, a former diplomat, joins us on the program as well. Gautam, I'll begin with you. Well, I remember in 1997 when India had conducted its first nuclear test in Pokhran. There was a cartoon in the New York Post where a man dressed as somebody with very less means, with a cow in his hand, knocking on a door, and the door read the nuclear club. And on the other side of this door were a few cigar and pipe smoking oligarchs or businessmen who were frowning upon India's entry into the nuclear club. But mind you, Gautam, that was almost 30 years ago. It seems the Western view of India has not much changed at all.
Well, if you look at the rest of the Scandinavian countries, and indeed the official line even in Norway, where they gave the highest award, it was pretty civilized. But at the same time, this is a narrative, as you rightly pointed out, which has been in operation for a long time and particularly aimed at the BJP government because of a lot of sympathy from, far leftists and the like towards the Pakistani narrative, which is lobbied very hard in the West. So, and a lot of Pakistanis working in places like the BBC, the New York Times, Washington Post, and indeed Norway, which is a 4 million population country. Uh, it kind of makes you think that on the one hand, the government permitted it because, I mean, in the name of so-called press freedom, because the cartoon and the rather silly opinion piece was released just before Modi landed, about an hour before, and this young woman, very ignorant and ill-mannered young woman, who barged in and started heckling the prime minister. This was all, allowed in a sense. And because of the backlash, today you have the Norwegian prime minister censoring both the young woman and condemning the kind of narrative that has built up, saying that India has indeed done the following, very similar to what the Secretary West pointed out. We have given them a very generous rebuttal of a very ill-mannered attack, series of attacks, both from their largest newspaper and from this young woman who didn't stand around even for the reply, went off to drink a glass of water. It's absolutely appalling what Norway has allowed. In this 5-country visit, this is the only place where you've seen such awful manners, and to what purpose? What do they hope to achieve? They're not going to stop India progressing, nor are they going to confine us to their tropes. We have the largest Muslim population outside of Indonesia. We have a very large Christian population. Norway keeps giving money to the Christians in the south of India. They have an evangelical mission there. They have their own motivations, but it's a busybody type of attitude that the country has. And perhaps the left is very woke, but the official line is playing both sides against the middle. Vinny.
All right, Mr. Lali. Are you upset? Are you angry seeing this kind of a treatment? First of all, also, that journalist who tried talking to the Prime Minister while he was walking away off stage during that interaction, that was also something which does not fall under press freedom. That's press aggression, if I can call it that.
Thank you, Vineet. Vineet, I think she's too inconsequential to affect me. Vineet, Norway is very close to my heart because I've done business in that country. I mean, Lier and Drammen are two cities where my importer had a warehouse. So I've been to Norway about 5 to 7 times. And in 1998, I got a fax. That time fax was more active from my Norwegian partners when we did the Pokhran explosion, and the cartoon / caricature was that it's an Indian snake charmer, and while he's playing his bean, and out of that snake pit comes out a nuclear explosion. So that is something which you just helped me revive that memory, but I wouldn't worry about it because she was just looking for a 2 minutes of fame. These whites have been living in the ivory towers for the longest of time, and if I was to start summarizing and penning down on the kind of remarks people have made on my turban, I mean, I could write a book on it. So she was probably looking for a 2 minutes of fame, and more than her question, it's her tone. I mean, I absolutely, was very unhappy with the tone, the way she was trying to heckle. I mean, I quote her, will the Indian PM take critical questions from the Indian press corps closed? Excuse me, please go look up the elections and the democracy we live in. Uh, I mean, Gurgaon is 3/4 of the population of Norway, and there are assembly constituencies in India which are bigger than Norway. So I don't think she understands what she did, but maybe the non-understanding was that she was looking for a 2 minutes of fame. And we need one more thing. I looked up her timeline. I could not find any reference to, it's not even very active. I couldn't find any reference to one, the Epstein files. Number two, what America has been saying and talking about their Scandinavian chunk, and especially Greenland, no reference to that. The way Donald Trump has been treating journalists, calling them, especially women journalists, calling them piggy, stupid, dumb, fake, there's nothing about it. And not even on the war of Iran, in the Iran, where Donald Trump was on record saying that I'm going to annihilate a civilization. So why am I telling you all these 5 things? To me, it seems like a very selective act of maybe a think tank or an NGO, or one more thing we need. 1% of the Norwegian population is from Pakistan, because Pakistan had some treaty with Norway, so there are heaps and heaps of Pakistani. So I don't know. I don't know if this is a free dinner at some Paki restaurant or a weekend trip with the Celia lines across to other parts of Scandinavia. To me, it looked extremely selective. It looked extremely in bad taste. And I'm so glad that the Norwegian Prime Minister, did make a reference to it, because it puts a very bad taste into people's mouth where such, individuals are allowed to dominate a headline news, and it's more unfortunate our LOP in India picks it up also. So that's what I have to say.
Ambassador Kapoor, what about the Norwegian government? Shouldn't they be apologizing to the Prime Minister? Shouldn't they be issuing, some sort of a response to the kind of, humiliation, if we can call it that, or mortifying disposition that they have shown towards, forget about the Indian Prime Minister, forget about the delegation, but towards a guest as a host?
Well, it has been appalling behavior by the journalist who depicted the Prime Minister as a snake charmer, and by this so-called journalist with hardly any credentials. But, about the apology, we can come to a little later. What my point is the following, that if you have had a visit by the Indian Prime Minister, who's one of the diplomats par excellence in the world, who's done so much for India and India's role in the world and for other countries in terms of the, vaccine, Maitri, diplomacy, etc. For our very successful visits to the UAE and to these 4 Nordic countries and discussions with all the Nordic prime ministers, to get distracted or disrupted by issues which should not even occupy any space in your screen, not even a fraction of 1%. For that to become a talking point, for that to suddenly give star status to a person who has 800 followers and who has never done any post for 2 years, and suddenly, everybody is talking about it and the whole toolkit unrolls. Now, does it also reflect a sense of inadequacy? Because, the ancient Indian civilization, which is the only continuing civilization in the world today, has got a lot of limelight of late with William Dalrymple's book on the Golden Road, how ancient India transformed the world. A lot of other countries are realizing that a lot of the progress which has been made in the world is all originated in India, in terms of knowledge, in terms of discoveries. So, why is it suddenly shaken up occasionally, and what is the reason for that? Why does it happen? So those issues are also important. And now that there is greater awareness which is spreading, there may be the Pakistani element, but we have to encourage, as Indian diaspora and as Indian missions abroad, the Westerners themselves to deal with these sort of problems now, rather than for us to react and try to demand apologies from the government. It has to be their citizens who have to demand apologies. I'll just give you a very quick example here. In Cambodia, for example, Indian work in Angkor Wat had been denigrated and sort of painted black to such an extent that India was not allowed to do any renovation work in the ancient temples there till I joined as ambassador. And then we had to reverse the whole flow of the narrative. And finally, it was a UNESCO chief who said that from now on, India will never have to defend its work. We will do that. And France also, which had been the mastermind behind all the efforts to put India in a corner, also agreed to issue a statement ultimately that the work done by India was phenomenal. So it is this that we have to attempt ultimately, that they have to fight their own battles, their own senses of inadequacy, or inner sort of narratives which they have been creating for centuries or millennia to try to see that India does not rise again or understand the glorious past of India. So how do we do that is the question we should be posing ourselves, rather than making a very, very successful visit with so many positives, and a lot of those positives have not yet come out in the open space, in the open media, to the public arena, which the people will keep on realizing the outcomes of these visits over time more and more. But what I would suggest is that we do not sort of give it more oxygen. We have to give it a very decent burial, very strong burial, very strongly worded burial, so that it is put aside and we bring our focus back.
I think we're not giving it oxygen, Shruti. I think what we are trying to do is give it a response. We are trying to articulate as to how wrong this lady was, how wrong this newspaper was, because they don't understand India, and it's very similar to the way that they don't understand maybe a Pakistan as well. They don't know how dangerous a country a Pakistan is.
You're absolutely right there. This is the problem of ignoring and shrugging off insults which were deliberately planted. This is a result of not giving too much space to the narrative writing that tends to happen in Western media and journalism, because then it gives them, it produces a crop of journalists, it produces a crop of opinion makers, it produces a crop of think tanks that tend to believe the very narrative that has been spoon-fed to them for years. So the cartoon itself is derogatory, there is no doubt. It's racist, yes, and it is an attempt to put India down a peg or two after it has made a massive deal with the Nordic nations over there. So why would an article where it is talking about how India's diplomacy is very strategic and transactional try and have a cartoon that is derogatory? It is not that the article itself is very derogatory, apart from its heading, which calls it, you gave it a very nice name. For my Google Translate, it says sneaky and cunning man rather than clever and cunning man. So there is a negative connotation to how the title has been given and the cartoon itself. We're not giving oxygen, but we are definitely showing the mirror to exactly how they are trying to portray a nation whose leader they have just given their highest civil honor to at the end of the visit. So this shows that they are unable to cope up with the reality of what India is today in comparison to what they think India is in their own heads. If the mirror is not shown today, no matter whether we reclaim our place as the fourth largest economy or overtake Germany to become the third largest economy, it doesn't matter that we are the fastest growing economy, it doesn't matter that we are the largest nation with pluralistic ideals, that where every culture and religious faith flourishes, it would not matter. The reality would not matter. Their perspective shall remain same. And these perspectives, as we spoke yesterday, would guide the indices that they put out, and those indices in turn play about 20 to 30% into how the world lending banks like the World Bank and the other banks look at India as a risk factor. So it is not just perspective and narrative, it is about hobbling your economy while humiliating you as a country. So it is not talking truth to power as they would like to present it. I was at a discussion today where a Norwegian journalist, another one from some other publication probably, shrugged it off and saying it is quite done here that we can do these things at press conferences. It's quite done here to make a joke about or write a commentary of personal opinions in our largest newspaper, but in those very same newspapers, I do not find a similar caricature of their crown princess and Epstein clinking glasses while after he has been convicted as a sex offender. I do not find commentary if of the similar nature about their own prime minister and other leaders who have been found guilty of taking kickbacks with trying to have Epstein related dealings with Norway. So it is quite worrying that they would like to turn a blind eye to what they do and would like to try and tell you from an elevated place or platform that look, you are a nation that needs to understand that you're still quite primitive and you are a land of snake charmers as that particular cartoon was. The cartoon on itself is not a problem. We have memes. The melody meme is going viral today because PM Modi decided to play along with his large body.
Yeah,
of,
we have a paucity of time,
followers.
Shruti. I just want a quick reaction from Gautam as well. Gautam, this is perhaps a very good example of, okay, you may be the freest press in the world, but that does not mean you're the most responsible.
Well, for a country of 4 million people, do we care what they label themselves? In fact, do we care about their opinion at all? We've always had this kind of fringe element out of the BBC, out of the Washington Post, out of the New York Times, and sundry others, now Norway. We don't care really. It's who's shooting whom in the foot. It's not us who are affected. It's they themselves for being silly with a country like India. And if they don't know any better, then good luck to them. We don't care.
All right. I guess that's the best way to sum it up. We don't care what you think of us. Thank you everyone for being a part of this conversation. Really appreciate it. We take a short break on that note. Be right back.